Crunch is an alligator snapping turtle. Alligator snapping turtles are the largest freshwater turtle species that live in the world, and they live right here in the United States. Louisiana, Georgia, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Missouri were the densest populations of them. They trapped these animals commercially for their meat back in the 60s and 70s and just wiped out the population of large ones in about a 5-year span of very aggressive commercial trapping. They're now listed as endangered and protected in every state of their natural range. An alligator snapping turtle the size of Crunch has no natural enemies except for man. They have a very powerful bite and are very quick to defend themselves when they have to. They avoid confrontation at all opportunities, but when they need to, they can defend themselves against anything that they'll come up against in the wild, and that would even include large alligators. Alligator snapping turtles can't swim. They walk on the bottom. They use their claws to move themselves around on the bottom. They also like to use their claws to dig for clams, and when they find clams, they crush them up and swallow them, shell and all. Because alligator snapping turtles can't swim, they have to be able to be touching the bottom to reach the top to take a breath. About every 30 to 60 minute intervals, Crunch will raise up using his front feet like this, poke his nose up out of the water, exhale his old air, inhale new air, and he's done. It's one breath about every 30 to 60 minutes. Now he can hold his breath for almost 2 days, so if he finds himself out in deep water looking for food, or if the water goes up, he's got 2 days before he has to find shallow water to take a breath again. Alligator snapping turtles are a totally aquatic animal. They'll never leave the water by choice except for the female, and that's only to lay her eggs. An alligator snapping turtle the size of Crunch can't move on land very far at all. He can't handle his weight out of water. They have excellent vision. If you look closely, you'll see that Crunch's pupils are shaped like a 5-point star, and they're located about 2 inches back from the tip of his nose. Alligator snapping turtles breathe through a hole in their tongue. Their nostrils exit through the roof of their mouth. They take this hole in their tongue and push it up against the roof of their mouth to form a seal, to draw the air in through their nostrils, through the hole in their tongue, down to their lungs. Or they can clamp it shut, like Crunch just did, and pump water in and out of their nostrils, and use the same nostrils to smell the water that they use to smell the air. Alligator snapping turtles are very sedentary animals. They have a worm-like appendage on the end of their tongue. It's a little pink piece of meat that looks like a worm, and it's part of their tongue. They'll lay around on the bottom and wiggle this little worm to attract fish into their mouth. When the fish sees the worm and swims into their mouth to get the worm, the turtle gets the fish. They'll lay in one spot for decades if they're left undisturbed and can get adequate food to come to them. If you look on Crunch's back, you'll see old scars. These have been healed up for decades. These are old injuries from probably where a person tried to get Crunch at one time or another. They used to use a harpoon-like device to try to stab through the shell and gaff the turtle up to the surface. Crunch eats on 1.5 and 2 week intervals. Every 1.5 to 2 weeks, we feed him 6 to 9 pounds of carp, catfish, clams, or crawfish. We feed him an all-natural aquatic diet with some chicken. He swallows his food in pieces the size of softballs. The aquarium that Crunch is in is not adequate for permanent housing. The remainder of the year, Crunch goes back into his own habitat, which is indoors, with timed day and night cycles, moon phases, and a semi-automated water changing system that helps us take care of him. Each time that he eats, Crunch pollutes around 1,000 gallons of fresh, softened, 80-degree water, and it takes 2 hours of time to clean up after him. Crunch was captured by a commercial trapper in the late 70s or early 80s. He was sold to a slaughterhouse in Mississippi by a Mississippi trapper, so they assumed Crunch was caught in Mississippi. He was sold for his meat by the pound. It was a time period when they hadn't seen anything this large come in for a while, so they waited to butcher Crunch to see if somebody would pay more for him live than for his meat. Money saved Crunch. He was sold to a man in southern Georgia who put him in his private 3-acre pond, and for a 10-year period Crunch sat in that 3-acre pond in the exact same spot. In 1991, the Blackwater Turtle Refuge took over the care of Crunch. Crunch has been our responsibility since that day. Beginning in 2003, Crunch started his public tours. Now, each year, Crunch travels just 5 weeks out of the year. He generally covers around 12 states, 10,000 miles, and views in person about 180,000 people. Crunch's story has been covered by CNN and Associated Press around the world. Crunch is now one of the largest left alive in the world. At Blackwater Turtle Refuge, we consider ourselves Crunch's caretaker more than his owner. Crunch should outlive us by over 100 years. We strive to exhibit Crunch in a manner that will protect his well-being. We reach out to the viewing public to educate them on a species of animal that they have probably never seen before. This is the largest freshwater turtle species that lives in the world, and it's native to the United States. They were here, we came, and now the giants are gone. We hope to promote conservation with Crunch by changing the hearts of man, their only natural enemy.